of the best baits you can use in the fall is a spinnerbait. Right now I got on a 1/2 ounce Booyah blade. And what it has is a tandem small Colorado nickel blade and then a willow that's in gold. I like chartreuse and white. Chartreuse on top, white on bottom. And I always use a trailer hook on the back. One of the things you see people talk about with spinnerbaits is when you're running them, you can throw them out and just reel them in steady. But one of the things you want to do is you want to every now and then just give a little erratic action to the spinnerbait by jerking the rod in either right, left, up, down. It doesn't really matter. But the main thing is you want to get that bait to stop and make the blades flicker. So you make a cast out, give it 4 or 5 cranks, and then just throw a little twitch into the rod like that. And what it does, it makes the blades erratically move. If you've ever fished a spinnerbait and you bang into something, that's exactly what happens. You hit a stump, you hit a log or a rock, and the bait flares, and a lot of times it triggers a strike from a bass. So when you cover in open water and you're not making contact, if you can throw that erratic motion into the bait, you can get a bass to react to that, even though it hasn't hit off a stump or something. If they're out chasing bait in open water, they see that erratic motion, they're gonna key in on that. They think it's an injured bait fish, something's wrong, something's different from all the other bait that's around, and they're gonna go in and attack it. So it's just a little tip you can do when you're throwing a spinnerbait, is make sure you put an erratic motion every now when you're retrieving. And some of the biggest bass you'll catch, you'll see will happen when you make that snap. They'll come up and they'll really hit this hard. Oh, big one just whacked it and missed it. What I'm using for this spinnerbait rod is it's an Avid 6-foot 10-inch medium heavy power, fast action rod. But it's got a little bit of a bend in the tip, so you can make a little bit more of a cast, but it loads up real nice when the fish hits. You can really get a hook on them nice. You know, when you're looking at cover and stuff like that with a spinnerbait, you don't just throw like to the outside edges of it. You throw right over the top of it and let the bait come right over the branches. And what'll happen is you'll see the bait kick up on its side and bounce over. And a lot of times that's where you'll trigger that strike, is when it bounces over a limb or something. So throw it right over the top of stuff, especially when you have thick branches. It'll tend to hang up more in thin ones, but if you give it a little pop or a pull, it usually come right off. You run a spinnerbait right across the stump like that, you let it bounce right off the side and make repeated casts. That's how you trigger a bass to strike. If that bass is laying up against the side of the stump, you burn that spinnerbait right along the side of it. If they're there, 9 times out of 10, they're gonna hit it on one of the passes. So never just make one cast. Sometimes you need to make a couple of shots, and every now and then you'll even let it flicker and fall down. You make a cast right at it, let it fall down, and then bring it across the stump. It'll bounce right out of the way.